Fish and Chums!
Hi everybody, old Garrett and Tuffy here at the Fishing Shack out on Table Rock Lake, and welcome to Fish and Chums Fishing Reports. Here we are in the middle of May already. Isn't that something? The fishing has really been good in the Ozarks, and we want to talk about Table Rock, Taneycomo, Bull Shoals, take a quick look at Stockton. Truman's been real good, Lake of the Ozarks, so we have a lot to talk about. So let's go and start out here at Table Rock. I was out yesterday, picked up some nice bass on top water in the morning hours, and I tell you what, two good baits as I mentioned last week. One would be the spook, the old spook. Oh, it's been around forever, and I like that shad colored, that kind of a off-white color. Boy, that's been doing good for me. And a backup bait I've been using is a pop-R. As I mentioned on last week's show, hey, if they're not wanting that spook, throw the pop-R out, kind of mix it up, and that's going to pay off. Another thing that happened to me yesterday was that I had a real good blow up on the spook, put the pop-R out, didn't look at it, so I picked up my spinning rod with the underspin. And look at that underspin right there. I tell you what, when you're missing some topwater bait, pitch that out, count it down to around 5 or 7, slow roll that back to the boat, and boom, you're going to catch fish, that's for sure. Another thing's happening too on Table Rock would be the swim baits have been working off the long gravel points. And as I mentioned on last week's show, a lot of these bass are pretty well done with their spawning at Table Rock. They're moving out of the pockets, they're moving out of the creek areas, and they're more towards the mouth of the creeks right now. And yesterday I seen a little activity after the topwater bite was done, so I picked up an umbrella rig and was throwing that out just off of a point, between a point and a secondary point, and caught 2 nice fish. So the umbrella rig is working well. As I mentioned, the swim baits are working. And on windy days, overcast days, they're still picking up some fish on spinner baits, especially with that wind. So check that out. Another thing I did at Table Rock yesterday, I picked up half a dozen nice crappie. And I tell you what, folks, I don't know if you can see that, but that is a nice little 16th ounce jig. And what it is an off-colored, kind of a pale Bobby Garland shad-bodied jig, pink and chartreuse. And I love that multicolor head, orange and chartreuse. For me, this has been really working good this spring. And so 16th ounce, and what I was doing is pitching that up on the bank. A lot of shad are still back in the pockets. And so there's just a lot of bait fish back there. So crappie, had another walleye. It was a short one yesterday. But boy, I caught several really nice crappie. So the crappie fishing is pretty good at Table Rock. In fact, look at this beautiful lady right here fishing around a dock a couple days ago. Look at this. Wow, what a beautiful, beautiful fish, young lady. And she's been catching several fish this week. Some people have really been catching some nice crappie around the docks at Table Rock. And the catfish, I visited just a minute ago with my old buddy, Catfish Rick. And he's been camping up off the James River, and really picking up some nice cats, he and his gang. And they've been setting some set lines, and it seems like perch is about as good as bait as anything. And by the way, he said, boy, the white bass have really been schooling in that particular area, and they've been catching a lot of white bass as well. And hey, I had another good report of catfish. I talked to a guy out the boat ramp, and he had some nice ones. And you know what he was using? He was using shrimp for bait. And boy, he had a real nice mess of catfish. Another thing going on at Table Rock would be, and a lot of these other lakes too, the bluegill are really moving to the banks. And boy, people are really catching some big hand-sized bluegill, some really nice ones. So you may want to check this out for the upcoming week as well. Table Rock looks good. The water temperature when I started yesterday morning was 70 degrees, and by the time I left was around 72 degrees. And the lake level's pretty normal. So good fishing at Table Rock for the upcoming weekend. Just pick your species and go out and get them. Right, Tuffy? Yeah, buddy. Yeah. All right, now Lake Taneycomo, they've been releasing some water from Table Rock, so there is a current. And the Corps of Engineers been running a couple generators, so there's a nice flow at Lake Taneycomo if you want to do some drifting. And there's some shad coming through. And so you can use white jigs. That's paying off, kind of pitching it out. 16th ounce will work good. pitch it out, count it down to about 10, then swim it back in. That will pick up some rainbow trout. They've been drift fishing live minnows and still picking up some fish on night crawlers. So drift fishing is really good. And as far as a power bait, the Berkeley power bait, I tell you what, a good color right now seems to be pink or white. Some people are using a combination. So Lake Taneycomo is looking good for trout fishing this upcoming weekend. Don't overlook that little Clio spoon. And I tell you, a little silver with a little bit of red or orange. That's working for the spoons. Out at Bull Shoals Lake, well, they've been picking up some nice crappie up in the K-Dock area. In fact, look at this photo here. Look at Steve. Boy, what a nice fish, Steve. Right in the K-Dock area. So some real nice crappie fishing out at K-Dock. Some people are picking up some fish on the shoreline, jigging, just jigging, or some people are using minnows. Other people are getting off the shoreline about 8 to 10 feet of water, especially if you find a little bit of brush. So crappie fishing may be good in the K-Dock area for the upcoming weekend. Okay, bass fishing at Bull Shoals. We've had a variety of reports. The Ned rig, and by the way, backing up, I always forget this, but over at Table Rock, I picked up a good fish yesterday on a Ned rig when it started to slow down. Ned rig's good out at Bull Shoals. Windy days, spinnerbait, especially with a little cloud action. They've been picking up some fish on topwater. Spooks have been good. They've been picking up some fish also on poppars. Swim baits have been pretty productive out at Bull Shoals. And even they're doing some Carolina rigging off some of the points and secondary points because some of these fish are starting to move out of their spawning area. So you may want to check this out. So Bull Shoals look good for the upcoming weekend. Out at Stockton, I've had pretty good reports this week on walleye off the points and flats. They've been using several different baits, but I tell you what I would do this weekend is a jig and night crawler, about an 1/8 ounce jig, and pitch that up on the flats and the points and kind of use your electric motor and drift it. And another thing some of the boys have been doing is using jerk baits, picking up some walleye out at Stockton. Crappie fishing has been very good at times out at Stockton. Some of the fish are kind of moved off the banks, so go to the brush piles, anywhere from 8, 10, 12, 15, even maybe a little bit deeper. So Stockton looks good for the upcoming weekend on crappie and, of course, walleye. Looks good. Okay, at Truman Lake, my gosh, I got to start this report out at Truman. Been good crappie fishing out there, but I wanted to just show you this picture of Christina, and she is holding a 72-pound catfish. Good going, girl. And her dad is James Pope, and they're a good catfishing family. Look at that fish. Boy, that fish is about as big as you are, kiddo. And so the catfishing's really picked up out at Bull Shoals, or excuse me, at Truman, and they've been picking up fish mainly on shad baits and kind of mixing the bait up. I talked to a guy out there, one of my reporters, that was using blood bait, but I'll tell you, shad just about as good as anything out at Truman. And one more photo. Colt Johnson's son. Look at this picture. My gosh, what a beautiful, beautiful crappie young man. Love those pictures of young men, ladies, kids holding big old fish. That just does my heart good. So crappie fishing is good out at Truman. Some of the fish have moved off the bank, and so you might want to try 6, 8, 10 feet of water. Try the cedar trees as well, jigging or minnow fishing around the cedar trees. That's been paying off the last few days. And some fish are still near the bank, but you may, if you're not doing any good, don't be afraid to move off the bank a little bit and try those cedar trees. Might pay off for you. So good crappie fishing at Truman this upcoming weekend. I've had all kinds of reports of a lot of limits caught out there the last few days. Ooh, looks good for crappie fishing out at Truman. All right, Lake the Ozarks are still the same thing. They've been picking up some fish, not so much on the banks, kind of moving off the banks a little bit in the brush, and 8, 10, 12 feet of water. And the docks, around the docks, the shaded docks have been paying off for crappie as well. How's that, crappie? I'm going to start naming you Crappie. Yeah, he loves to kiss crappie. Okay, that's it for the day. I want to thank you very much for being with us today. Have yourself a good upcoming weekend. I know I'm going to have a great upcoming weekend. Be sure to like and share, and be sure to subscribe. As I say every week, it's absolutely free. It does us a little bit of good, and so tell your friends about us and subscribe. And if you have any of the photos you want to share or information, please just email us at fishingchums@gmail.com. Again, have yourself a great upcoming weekend. Check you here next week on Fishing Chums. Go out and get bit.